It's Africa's misfortune, if I may say so. We are not united. We don't see things the same way. Some are afraid, some are hesitant, some are there for the interests of other people. The West, there are people who grew up over there, did everything over there, and then they come and are made heads of state in Africa. So they're the ones who control all of that. And so Africa can't have its own opinion.
Yo, what's up, people? Welcome back to Polar Perspectives, the only podcast where we discuss all the trending issues and very nibbling issues that no other channel dares to talk about. In today's video, Ibrahim Traoré, the famous Burkina Faso African leader, has pulled yet another massive stunt that has left the whole world in shock. And by the time you hear this, you are going to be marveled. So imagine this. In early December 2025, a Nigerian plane flew into Burkina Faso's airspace without permission. Traoré's team forced it to land in one of the airports in Bobo-Dioulasso, and held the crew there for hours. The reason was they suspected that this plane flying unculturedly into their territory was spying for French interests. And this happened right after Nigeria helped stop a coup in Benin Republic. Have you seen the linking? This story goes deeper than this. Wait. And so, it turns out that interrupting a plane mid-air and alienating himself from the rest of the world, especially France, is just a small part of what this military junta is doing. And by the time we get to the end of this video, you will marvel at what Ibrahim Traoré is actually doing that is destroying his image, if you choose to call it that is destroying his image abroad, overseas, and not just his alone, but thus the image of the whole country and his people. So welcome back to Polar Perspectives. Alright, so now, before we get into the main gist of the story, hear this. Let's talk about what is really happening in Burkina Faso since Ibrahim Traoré took over in 2022. So this landlocked country was once drained by French companies taking half of the gold. They took half of the gold as profits. Ibrahim Traoré took back full control. We all know how the story happened. There was a little coup that overthrew the previous government, democratic government, that was more like a puppet to the French. So by so doing, he also kicked out 5 French firms and using the money for real changes in the country. And so because of that, the changes that this young man has embarked in ever since he took control, gold output has jumped to over 200 tons a year, paying for things like 2,000 kilometers of new roads, linking remote villages and big airports together. He has also handled about 1.2 million people, giving them jobs, and solar plants covering 30% of the country's power, something that the French could not do for over 50 years. So, how did he do all this and more in the space of only 3 years? How did Ibrahim Traoré cut debt and ditch foreign aids, foreign loans, ignoring IMF rules, ignoring all Western aids? How? Traoré turned to make deals with Russia, China, and Turkey instead of the West. And these deals, these countries are plain, like a sheet of paper. They don't make deals with ulterior motives. They don't come with hidden catches. Understand? Plain. And those are the kind of countries that African leaders should make deals with, not the West. So because of these deals that Ibrahim Traoré has done, farming took off at an incredible speed. Tomato production has risen to over 400,000 tons. Rice is now homegrown, enough to skip imports. Thanks to 1,000 tractors and solar water systems, ending most food aid that came from overseas. New factories for fertilizers are being built. Factories for clothes and medicines have tripled local outputs, cutting what they used to buy from outside. On the security front, ever since Traoré took over, attacks from extremists have fallen 65% since 2023, with Russian drones and more trained fighters helping. He has built the alliance of Sahel states with states like Mali and Niger for shared defense. He has completely ditched ECOWAS, terming them too Western controlled. French got pushed out of schools as well. And he brought back the death penalty for betrayal, all to reclaim the pride of his people. Even though places like Barcelona still face attacks. So, but it makes us wonder if this is a tough strength or a risky bet. And these attacks are sponsored. They are sponsored attacks. So, the West currently calls Ibrahim Traoré a dictator for shutting down critics, holding journalists, closing media, tightening civic freedom. You know the narrative that the West has of Africa. It is always negative. The Western media will never see Africans as capable of taking care of themselves, of handling, solving their own problems. So they always tend to have this negative reportage of Africa. Every time you see Africa flashing across CNN, for instance, Fox News, it is always something negative. Those guys don't comment, don't showcase, don't cover anything positive about us. But it is high time the narrative changed. And this is the kind of change that Ibrahim Traoré is trying to institute. So if you look closer, the West does not necessarily hate Ibrahim Traoré. They don't hate him, but they hate his moves. They hate what he represents. They hate what he symbolizes. They hate his freedom. So by saying no to IMF cash and French troops, he has shown how he has exposed how resources get stolen under the guise of help. US leaders call him dangerous, ignoring how their allies stirred up conflict for gain. Yes, US is a capitalist state. So war is an economic investment for the West. Other Africans are not really happy about this. So it is those reactions that we are going to look at right now. So some Africans like Nigerians are still pissed over the plane halt, over the plane hole, with many of them seeing arrogance that Ibrahim Traoré's decision to interrupt that plane mid-air was arrogant. So they call it unconscionable and a dangerous display by a military dictator. So even Africans, seeing how the rest of the African states are still being ruled by puppets under the umbrella of democracy, they are still not willing to come to the light to see the light. They are still labeling people like Traoré a dictator. So other people are threatening and are cheering Traoré that Nigeria's military isn't to mess with. But then let's look at Nigerian military. Can those guys really repel outside attacks? I mean, I'd like to know your thoughts. This is a country that we have so many insecurity, threats, challenges plaguing on a daily basis. The military over there can barely do anything to salvage the issue. They can't deal with their own in-house, inbred banditry and insecurity challenges. How are they sure they can repel foreign attacks? How are they sure they can hold off foreign attacks if and when they come, when they can't even handle their own domestic attacks? So now my question is, what if Traoré's dictatorship level is the actual cure we need to turn things around in Africa? What if every other country followed suit in this same pattern? Yes, Ibrahim Traoré has blazed the trail. What if other African leaders follow? Would we still be in this mess? Or would things actually change for good? We've had democracy in Africa for the past how many years? Several years since most African states gained independence. And yet what has democracy done to liberate the majority of Africans from mental slavery and neo-colonialism? You'll find out that there is little to nothing. There is little to nothing. Because it makes African leaders puppets in the hands of neo-colonialists. Looking at Ibrahim Traoré's wonderful strides, amazing strides, in just 2 or 3 years since he took over, the GDP of Burkina Faso has risen from 18.8 billion to $24.3 billion. With free health and schools, he has totally beat decades of democracy in that country. What democracy could not do for over 50 years, he has done it in 3. So bottom line, what am I saying? We need more like him. We need firm leaders in this country that will take sovereignty first, even if it is not pretty, even if it is the most unpopular opinion. We need leaders that will be able to look neo-colonialists in the eye and tell them what they are really doing. So yeah, I'll leave you to answer this. Is Ibrahim Traoré a villain or a trailblazer? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. And don't forget, this is Polar Perspectives. Every view is welcome, no matter how odd and unpopular they are. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.